Happy spring games, Sooner Nation. It is the day of the spring game 2024. Team 130 making their appearance at the Palace on the Prairie. Probably going to be a little chilly here today in Norman with some north winds. Let's pray the rain stays away so it can at least be a dry day there at the Palace on the Prairie. Scoring system is a little bit confusing, but we're going to keep things simple here at the Sooner Surge because that's what we always do. And guys, before we get started, make sure you check out the FanStop, fanstop.com. Use code SURGE for 10% off your first 3 months. They have elite apparel. You need to get on board with that. Hey guys, first off, it's here. We've been talking about it every single night on the lives. It's finally arrived. Let's just start with something simple. What is one thing, just give me one thing, guys, that you are looking specifically for today in the spring game with Team 130?
I'll open it with David Stone, 5-star defensive lineman. Been a long time since Oklahoma had that. So, yeah, spring game or not, it's still his debut at Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium. So, hometown kid back into the 405. It's going to be exciting to see.
I'm going to go with, in the spring game, there's a lot you're not going to really be able to tell. Okay. That's just a fact of the matter when you go to the spring game. You're not going to know all the answers. But one thing you will know is mano-a-mano when you get defensive line versus offensive line, and you got PJ Adebawore rushing on the edge, or you got R. Mason Thomas, or you got Grayson Halton or David Stone or Jaden Jackson, and it's one-on-one, you're going to be able to see, are they winning that battle or are they struggling? So I think you'll be able to tell something from both sides of the ball, offensively, defensively, on the lines, because that's really matchup against each other, man versus man, and who's going to win that battle.
Yeah, and I think, look, I'm going to talk about something. One thing I'm really looking forward to today is I'm going to talk about a position that no one really noticed last year because it was pretty non-existent, but I think we're going to notice it today, and that's the tight end position. I think we're going to see quarterbacks dumping it down to the tight end far more than we ever saw last year. And the fact that they do that, even in a spring game, shows you that there is a point that has been talked about. Hey, use the tight end. The tight end is there for you. It's a safety valve, and maybe not a safety valve this year. It could be a catalyst for this offense. Okay, so I think that's something I'm going to look forward to. Speaking of the offense, guys, what are you looking forward to seeing on the offensive side of the ball, specifically today in the spring game?
Jaden Gibson. I mean, last year, seemed like every time he got the ball, it was a highlight play that you're going to see on SportsCenter that evening. And, another offseason for him. Looks like he's put on a little bit of weight. Maybe there'll be some official weights updated before the spring game. But, yeah, Jaden Gibson was great at the end of the season, reliable. At one point was averaging over 20 yards per catch. You see the highlight plays, brief stuff that has been posted from spring practice. And it seems like every time they're making a video, it's Jaden Gibson making a big-time play for the offense.
Well, and don't forget, last year at the spring game, Jaden Gibson had a drop. That he was coming off a year of drops, you could say. And then he had another one in the spring game, I think, in the end zone. And everyone's like, oh, my goodness. I think to win the game, possibly. So I think he's definitely going to come out and show. Here's what I would say I'm watching for offensively. And I'm going to expand on it a little bit, but I'm going to give you a specific person from each group. I want to see offensive line. I'm watching Josh Bates, okay? A running back, Caleb Hicks. Tight end, Bauer Sharp. Wide receiver, Deion Burks. Those are the guys. Quarterback, Jackson Arnold. I mean, I want to see what Jackson Arnold does. Remember last year, he was the hype last year. Everybody wanted to see Jackson Arnold throw the ball last year. And now you're a year later, everyone still wants to see Jackson Arnold because he only started the one game, really, the bowl game, you could say. I mean, the BYU, he came in. So I think a lot of people are going to want to see that. But those are kind of the names I'm watching specifically on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and Jay, I agree with almost all those. Although I'm really excited to see Devon Mitchell. And then listen, Jackson Arnold. You mentioned the Gibson drop. People forget that Jackson Arnold did not play great last year in the spring game, but he had a great drive to lead them down there and could have possibly, I think it was either tie or win that game. He made a heck of a
I
throw.
think it would have won it. I think it would have
Yeah.
won.
So, and people were talking, man, look at this guy under pressure. This guy can just bring teams back. I'm there for Jackson Arnold. I want to see him make tough throws. I want to see him slinging around the field. But specifically on the offensive side, I want to notice some differences in schemes. We've heard players talk about that. A lot of it is the same. There's difference in communication and language, verbiage of the plays, but there are a couple of nuances that are different. I want to be able to maybe see what those are to see where that could lead in the future. Let's flip the script, guy. Oh, go ahead, Hunter.
Real quick, expanding on that. Is there going to be movement on where the tight ends line up?
Mm-hmm.
Is that going to be something that changes where they're maybe in the backfield some, maybe in the slot? I mean, Seth Luttrell as OC and Joe John Finley there too, co-OCs. I mean, you would have to think that there's a difference in the schematics for the tight ends with just their background on that position group.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Let's flip the script, guys. Defensively, the talk all offseason has been the defensive line. Frankly, it's been the talk for the last few years. When this defensive line going to actually start making plays? That has been the talk, but let's talk about it. On the defensive side, guys, same question. What is the thing you're looking forward to most in seeing on the defensive side of Team 130?
I'm going to go with middle of the field, the linebackers and cheetahs. There's a lot of guys there, a lot of guys that you have to imagine they're making improvements. You have Danny Stutzman coming back. This is year 4 for him. He was great up until injury last year. And even after the injury, he was still pretty freaking good for OU. So, yeah, you would have to imagine that he takes that next step. He's the leader of the defense vocally and just as on the field. You also have Billy Bowman there in that leadership aspect. Then you have Jaron Kanak. It's year 3 for him. It's got to come together at some point because you look at who's behind him. Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie, Lewis Carter. And then transitioning more into the cheetah side. Kendall Dolby was really, really good last year. You have Justin Harrington entering the portal per reports Friday. That was reported. So Samuel Mashingo, he's there. You also have Peyton Bowen. Does he see a little bit of a cheetah action? So, yeah, the middle of the field, that's one thing I think you can kind of gather from a spring game is how are they looking? How are they moving in open space? How quick are they able to get to in the positions to make tackles?
Yeah, and I would be very surprised tomorrow if the defense doesn't look pretty dominant because I just think they will. I'm looking for a few things. One is I'm very interested to see Woody Washington and where he's going to line up. I'm very interested to see that. I'm also interested to see on the outside kind of their rotation and just kind of see who those guys are going to be. I mean, you could go maybe 4 deep there that you're talking, not 4 deep, but 4 guys total on the cornerbacks that I'd like to watch. And then the other one is this. We haven't heard a word from him, but I want to watch him. I want to watch him coach. I want to watch how he interacts with the players. And that's Zach Alley. I mean, it's kind of like mystery man, Zach Alley, Brent Venables' clone, Zach Alley. I want to see his interaction with the players, how the players interact with him, how maybe the defense lines. I mean, I think it's going to be very intriguing and very interesting to watch him out there with the team.
Yeah, you kind of stole my thunder there with Zach Alley. That's exactly what I was going to go with. But I'm going to mention 3 guys. Hunter brings up the middle of the defense. I'm going to bring up the back end of the defense. And 3 guys that really haven't been talked a lot about that I'm really excited to see. And they're all playing cornerback. It's Des Malone, it's Jacoby Johnson, and Josiah Wagner. Those are 3 guys I'm just curious to see how they look when they got there. I think Des Malone is, if not pushing for a starting role, he's going to be playing a lot of snaps from everything that's been talked about. So I'm ready to see him. Someone new, hasn't been there much. So see what his size looks like. And listen, size-wise, things people can look the part, and then playing and carrying the pads and all that on the field is different. So let's see what some of these guys look like on the field today. And guys, listen, obviously there has been a lot of excitement. There's also a lot of guys who are not going to be suited up today. They're not playing. Guys that are going to be starters, guys that are going to play a lot. So we're not going to talk about them. They're not going to be playing today, but let's talk about maybe a name, a sleeper, if you will, that hasn't been talked about that you think today could make a little bit of a name for themselves. Who you got?
I'll open it up with the 918 kid, Danny Okoye. He's on one half of the power line that has not been talked about. It's crazy that spring ball at this point is now over at the conclusion of the red-white game, and that's not a name you hear a lot of. Danny Okoye, anytime you see him on a football field, he's making highlight plays. Freshman or not, looking at his size, I mean, he's running a 4.5 right now, gained about 15 pounds is what he said when talking to the media this offseason. I mean, tackle has been maybe a position of concern for OU. Expect Danny Okoye to make some get some disruption in the backfield.
So I'm going to go with the name that it's also a freshman, Hunter. And this is a guy I'm not saying is going to play a ton this year, but I do think people are going to see him tomorrow and be like, who's that guy? Wow. Reggie Powers. I think down the road, he's going to be a great player at OU. And I just think when you look at him tomorrow, people are going to be saying, man, that guy looks like he's going to be pretty good. He's already pretty good. That's Reggie Powers.
Yeah, and I'll say a name that has been mentioned some, but
I thought that wasn't the question. The question was what hasn't been mentioned some.
Well, I was going to mention Lewis Carter. He has been mentioned some, but he's been mentioned some. In his interview, he talks about the role he's wanting to, the step he's wanting to take. No one can argue the guy's size has been there. He's been size ready, physically ready last year as well. Does he get a chance? And when he gets in, I expect him to make plays. I absolutely do. And one last thing to keep an eye on, guys, special teams. It's always good to take a look, see what they got. There's going to be a strong north wind, but that'll be something to keep an eye on today.
Yeah, special teams, special plays, special players, as Sketch says. Can Zach Schmidt make some field goals? That's what a lot of OU fans are looking for is kicker. Got to have consistency there going into the SEC because, I mean, you would have to imagine that there's at least one game this coming season that is going to be decided by 3 points or less.
Yeah, and there's going to be just it's going to happen tonight when we do the live, when we do our post-spring game reaction. There's going to be some big-time overreactions from this game today. To promise you, whether it's if Jackson Arnold throws an interception, people will say OU's doomed at quarterback. I mean, just be ready for it tonight. And so I would say, fans, as you're watching the game in person or on TV, it's don't overreact to anything you see, to guys that look like they're going to be All-Americans after one spring game or the other way. So,
yeah, here's what I'll say. I think Schmidt is going to probably have his job taken by Liam Evans, pun intended, taken by Liam. Anyway, thanks for watching the content here at the Sooner Surge. Hope to see you at the spring game. If not, we'll see you on the post game afterwards. Appreciate it. Till next time. Boomer.